me back to the place I know, with the mystery shack and the forest gnomes. I'm already packed, so come on, let's go. Don't get me started, my heart's in Gravity Falls. Welcome to Mystery Shack Look Back, a nostalgic time capsule and no-spoiler book club of the original Gravity Falls fandom. We are your curators. I'm Ella.
I am Charlie.
Charlie?
Yes.
I'm gonna level with you.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yes.
And are you sitting down?
I am. You know I never am when we're recording.
I know. But this is gonna hurt me just as much as it hurts you when I tell you this.
Okay.
So, I shrunk the kids.
You what?
Look, I knew you weren't gonna take it well. I didn't know how to express it.
Okay. Well, that's interesting you mentioned that. And now that you've been, kind of emotionally honest with me,
yeah.
I feel the opportunity to share something with you that I haven't been sure.
Okay, yeah. We're sharing here. We're being open and honest. What do you got?
Honey?
Yes.
I blew up the baby.
See, that explains a lot. I thought you just remodeled and, got a giant baby-sized hole in the wall.
Yeah, and the much, smaller, in perspective crib and everything, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was actually gonna not talk about this because I thought it would be just embarrassing, frankly, on top of everything else that's happened. And this is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to say to a person, but I know that we have an honest and caring relationship, so I want to tell you, honey, we shrunk ourselves.
Well, us being shrunk is going to make it easier to find the shrunk kids and much harder to find the blown up baby.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
Ella, when I was a child, I did not know that blow up, in terms of computer software or scanning, meant enlarge.
It's a bad title. I think it's a bad title.
So when I was mortified when I heard what the sequel was called as a child.
It's not, I don't think it's a good title. I wonder how many people understand blow up as a phrase referring to enlarge because of that film, not prior.
No, yeah, I was like, they did what? To a baby?
To a baby, to a child.
Oh my goodness, they blew it up.
They probably saw the title and then saw the poster and were like, oh, okay.
Saw the title on the marquee and were freaking out and ran through the theater and saw the poster and
they were like, maybe that's what drove ticket sales. They're like, one for honey, I blew up the kid. I need to make sure he's okay.
Ella.
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in talking about Gravity Falls today?
That's my secret, Charlie. I'm always interested in talking about Gravity Falls.
Oh, good. Because I was prepared to close up, if not.
Yeah, no, I think I'm down for that. I think I'm down for it.
We are watching Little Dipper.
Oh, you mean, the 11th episode of the first season of Gravity Falls.
Yeah, it premiered September 28, 2012 on the Disney Channel, if you recall.
Right, and it was directed by,
Aaron Springer and Joe Pitt, and written by Tim McKeown,
right.
Zach Paez, and Alex Hirsch, yeah.
All right, well, I guess we're gonna have to, go on a wacky adventure to get up to the computer to press play.
Friday, September 28th.
You just sat over the Mystery Shack to little old me.
He's back. You're an idiot.
How dare you?
And this time,
What am I doing?
Gideon wants the Mystery Shack.
The shack is mine. No! Your business, your family, everything will finally be mine.
All new Gravity Falls. I don't even know how to respond to this. Friday, September 28th at 9:30, 8:30 Central on Disney Channel.
We just watched Little Dipper.
Yeah, it took a while to climb up to the desk so we could watch it, but we did.
I didn't remember this episode super strongly from... I don't know that I've ever watched it in its own sitting.
Interesting. Because I have every episode indiscriminately burned into my brain, so it was interesting to me to have, varying degrees of memory.
Well, last week we talked about that was the one that was most recent when I first purchased the show, Fight Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think after catching up, I kind of fell out with the show for a bit. And then a friend I had told to watch it had started getting into it and gotten past me. So I think this was an episode that I first watched in like a bulk session to be like, all right, if this person's going to live blog this show to me, they're going to spoil it if they get to this point.
Yeah. So, okay, that makes sense. A variety of factors that lead to this not being super remembered.
It is an important episode.
It is, definitely.
Because in Hand That Rocks the Mabel, Gideon says he will be back for revenge, but also that is how most Gravity Falls episodes end.
Yes, it has not happened up till this point. This is our first, returning antagonist.
Yeah, I think this is the episode that's trying to cement him as the season 1 villain rather than the episode 4 villain.
Yeah, I think it does that pretty well, because, first off, it's just really fun, at least to me, because in Hand That Rocks the Mabel, he's being introduced as someone with unknown intentions, or, how evil is he really? But now they don't need to be mysterious about it anymore, so they can just fully make him a villain, and he is amazing, and has, such a good balance of... Which, this is a trend with, most Gravity Falls villains, of being really funny, but really genuinely threatening when he needs to be, and there's such a good... especially this episode, juxtaposition of him being evil, but also a child. There are so many great bits.
The one with Lazy Susan.
Yes, that was it. He's on a bench waiting for the bus, and he's kicking his little baby legs. He's dangling off the ground, and Lazy Susan asks him,
"What cute little thing are you off to, you cute little cutie face?"
And then he responds.
"I'm gonna annihilate my archenemy's entire family."
To which she reacts like,
"Oh, okay. Yay!"
and I love that. And then there's he's being spoon-fed ice cream by his father in the midst of giving an evil monologue, and he just makes the cutest little mouth opening noise.
"Did you pick out all the nuts?" "Mm-hmm."
And as I said in Gobblewonker, one of my missions with this show is to shatter the idea that Alex is smarter than all of us. Because he's not, and I don't think that's rude to say.
No, it was a show made by human people who are fallible like the rest of us. I think that's totally fair.
And I am able to take inspiration from the show to create, because I understand that.
Yeah, it would be harder to find inspiration if it was this is just made by masterminds and I can't be that.
So there is this idea that Alex came out the woodwork in 2012 with a 4-year plan of an arc. And that's not how any TV show works.
Yeah, you gotta give it time to gestate and grow.
As well as there are things that your audience might find interesting that you didn't realize were interesting, or the network, in the case of McGucket, who was supposed to be a 1-episode character.
It's just the process, and I think that's okay.
And it's more than okay. I love the process.
Yeah.
The process is so much fun. I have so much fun writing scripts with you, where we come up with a problem and we come up with something dramatic or funny to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
And here, that definitely is seen, because Gideon didn't seem to have any interest in the Mystery Shack in Hand That Rocks the Mabel, and that's because he didn't.
Yeah, in his first appearance, he is entirely fixated on Mabel, and here they have an opening scene where he kind of initially wants to take revenge for that event, but realizes that somehow the Mystery Shack itself will be the perfect way to exact vengeance.
Right, and in Hand That Rocks the Mabel, he shows up at the Mystery Shack and it never seems interesting to him that he's doing so, and he's not like, "Mabel, oh, you live with Stan Pines. Do you want to go out on a date?" It seems he is just... We did have a fan theory in that one that he was interested in getting to the shack, or the journal. Because Dipper and Gideon are both children that acquired the journal at a very young age, and there is this juxtaposition of how they dealt with that Dipper wants to learn more. Dipper is tired of being an ignorant child and wanted...
And Gideon, who has already grown up with the entitlement of being a child star, just wants it to gain more power.
Yes, because his father, Bud Gleeful, it is revealed in this episode, is a bit of a showman himself in that he sells used cars.
Yes, and that is inspired by, in a Reddit AMA, Top Darling WH asked, what is the inspiration for Bud Gleeful?
And Alex responded, when I was 12, I took a trip to Florida and saw the same infomercial for Family Auto Mart about 100 times. I remember the song to this day.
When you want a deal, it's great. Call 242-0328. Family Auto Mart. I see you here.
Bud is absolutely inspired by that great man.
They're so good, and
they're all on YouTube. I cannot recommend them enough.
Please watch them. Please.
No, like Ella and I were watching it and we're like, are we enjoying this ironically, or do we just think he's a consummate performer?
No, that question never crossed my mind. I
asked Ella and she was confused that I even asked. You were like, yeah, he's a consummate professional on camera. That's why we enjoy it. I don't understand.
He's so good, and there's lore. He's got, and we're wheeling and dealing, but where's Darlene?
Yeah, Darlene is a demon that lives with the family man.
Oh, Darlene, can we sell this 96 Ranger for $50 a month? Yeah! Maybe we ought to make that $50 a week.
And they're edited like YouTube poops, most of them.
We got boo-coo minivans. I got boo-coo minivans all over the place.
Oh my god. Yeah, so he's amazing, and I'm glad that, because we saw Bud Gleeful in Hand That Rocks the Mabel, but we didn't really see what he does, and now we see his car dealership. And he's incredible. But he's also a huge enabler for Gideon's bad behavior.
Oh, absolutely. I can buy and sell you, old man.
Fair enough. Yeah, we get a lot more bits like that.
Is that from this episode?
No, but we do get a lot of bits that feel like continuations of that moment, because we see Gideon's home life and how up it is. We see Gideon's mother, and
she's just traumatized and trying really hard not to think about her home life.
Yeah, she's not doing great. We also see more of Gideon's dynamic with Stan, which
is the reason Gideon exists.
Yeah, because episode 4, Hand That Rocks the Mabel, sets up that there's a rivalry. We don't really get to see it until Irrational Treasure briefly, and now it's all over this episode, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, you get him just outright insulting Gideon, like being really mean to who is revealed in this episode to be an elementary schooler, meaning he is younger than Dipper and Mabel.
Yeah. But yes, Stan is such a bully to this child.
Oh, hi, Gideon. I've been looking for someone to try out my new mirror maze. Then again, you're an idiot. That's the end of the sentence.
And this child is so maniacal to an old man. It's like,
oh, howdy, Stanford. Listen closely. Inside this jar have 1,000 cursed Egyptian super termites. Hand over the deed to your property or I'll smash this jar with a bat and they'll devour this shack with you inside.
It doesn't make sense for either of these people to hate each other.
I really love at the end when they are defeating Gideon by tickling him. Chekhov's tickle, where he just starts laughing and Stan is concerned, and because he's concerned, he just starts being nice to Gideon.
Yes.
Hey now, come on, you'll get me one of these days. Maybe, run your evil plan by some friends next time, huh? Workshop it.
Which came from Tim McKeown, who is just like that, apparently.
If he were to have a nemesis and the nemesis kept failing to defeat him, be like, hey, buddy, come on, sport. You get me next time.
We've said before that Thorpe Van Orman, who voices Gideon, is not an actor by trade and was very anxious to go into the voice booth for this series.
Oh, but he's so good.
And Alex says that was true before he got in the booth, and then once he got in the booth and was reading the lines, they were just overwhelmed with usable takes.
Yeah.
And they said they think it's because he was a showrunner. So has way more of a compass for what constitutes a usable take or a character ad-lib.
Yeah.
He has a fantastic ad-lib in this one.
Where he is trying to, threaten Stan, but he can't really walk out of the room dramatically, so he's got this, one of his henchmen, I guess, to lift him up.
Come here, hon. I need your arms.
Ella, were you the shortest person in your class?
I feel like I was one of them. But I can't, my relationship with the emotional side of this episode is interesting, because I know it is inspired by Alex and Ariel Hirsch always being the same height until...
Sixth grade. Yeah, assigned female at birth people hit puberty earlier than assigned male people do at the same age. So there is this point in sixth grade, usually, which would mean 12 for those who don't have the same grades as us, where the tallest people in your class are all of the girls.
Yeah, and he says in sixth grade she grew like half an inch taller than me, and it was the worst day of my life.
They also said that there was an assignment where they tried to figure out the exact height arrangement of everyone in class, and he was the dead last, and he hated it. And that happened to me. In fifth grade, I was, I believe, the fourth shortest.
I don't know why they do that to kids.
I don't understand
That feels like that's just fostering insecurities.
Well, I mean, knowing who's taller than whom helps when you're posing a class photo.
True. I could never relate to stories like this about boys wanting to be taller, because to me, at that time in my life, the idea of taking up any more space than I was currently taking, hated that. So I would like manifest not getting any taller.
Oh, did you stop eating broccoli?
Yeah, I took 20 cups of coffee every morning.
Ella is 5'4", by the way, listeners. I think that's important context to this. That's 1.6 meters, by the way.
Yes, that is true. That is where I topped out. I don't remember when, but it was, it stopped, so it worked out at the time. And then I transitioned and became comfortable with, existing and liking myself and taking up space. And now I'm like, ugh, I want to be a hot, tall girl.
So I can relate to this extraordinarily, because I try not to let masculine insecurity affect me. I mean, it does. There are times where, it still gets to me when people insult me for being short, because, like I wouldn't have transitioned to non-binary if, those things were... It's something I no longer want to think about anymore. But I will say, Ella, and you probably could piece this together with context clues about my life, I am the youngest of a household of 5.
Right, yeah, and that's the other thing, is that I don't have any connection to the sibling aspect of height.
I have a mother, a father, and 2 older sisters.
Yeah.
So, when I was a baby, I was the smallest.
On account of being a baby.
Yes, but that persisted for quite a long time. I was the smallest person in our household.
When, the expectation for an assigned male at birth child is that...
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to be taller than my father at 12, obviously.
Yeah.
But there was a point where I did become taller than my father, my mother, or either of my older sisters. And there was this little bit of I did it, I won.
There's a little of that competition aspect.
There was. I probably could have gathered that I would grow taller than my mother and sisters. I was not expecting to grow taller than my father. So that was a little bit exciting for me. I'm 5'9", which is 69 inches. I still get made fun of a lot for being short. And there's a lot of going back into this show where I'm realizing a lot of Dipper's insecurities are in his masculinity. And going back as a non-binary person with my trans woman best friend,
hey,
there's a bit of hey, why was I more attached to the admittedly sometimes homophobic and transphobic show than I was Steven Universe?
Interesting.
And then going back, I'm like, okay, all right, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Because even if this is a show made by almost exclusively cis people, being male is pain, and that is just a theme in every episode of this show. So, we have been asked to talk about this, and let's just do it.
Yeah.
We've alluded to it many times, and our audience did not feel that was enough.
Yeah. But it makes sense to do it here.
The trans community connect with Dipper a lot. I would say the popular one is that he's a trans man, that he was born assigned female at birth, and has been identifying more male.
Yeah, that he's like transmasculine or like a trans man,
And you could see that with him refusing to go by his birth name, and when coming up with a name for his clones, having other masculine names he has considered before.
Then, all of Dipper versus manliness.
Yes. I, however, am feeling a great connection with him, as there is what your body wants to do, which is grow however tall it's going to grow, and what society wants your body to do, which is be big enough to overpower women. Let's be real, that's why people want men to be tall.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunate.
So there's this dissonance of like, you can't enforce height. That is impossible.
Nope.
And the idea that it is something that has happened to you, me, and Alex Hirsch a decade apart, two decades apart. You grew up in the 2000s, I grew up in the 90s, he grew up in the 80s. So height is constantly being enforced, which is not how biology works.
No, it doesn't make sense.
There is this dissonance with a man is supposed to be this, but I am this, that I think everyone who is assigned male at birth has felt at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate it. I really, really hate it. I think about how much I hate it every single day. And
yeah, because even though I wasn't like, interpreted it a different way, I was still told these things about my body. I was like, yes, I know I am the shortest. I would like to keep it that way. I am terrified of that changing. And now I'm like, all of the other, like, all these trans women are like these gorgeous 6 foot
Amazons.
That I'm like, please, why can't that be me?
I only came out as non-binary a year and a half ago. I think your transition happened in a similar time frame.
Well, it was after Gravity Falls had ended for both of us, yeah.
And Dipper having these little episodic arcs about feeling insecure about his masculinity, it's just freaking moving mountains for me now in a way it didn't when I first watched this show.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed at the depth of interpretation that people take to that, like what it means to them. Because, like we were saying, the trans mask community loves Dipper, and I love that.
And we love Dipper, which means literally every trans person can see something in Dipper where you go, oh, that's me. That's supposed to represent me. Whether you're trans mask, trans femme, or...
And even if it isn't that's me, you can say that's trans. Like, even if it's not the trans that I am.
Yeah.
It's something.
So, I am not going to come out here and say I headcanon Dipper as a trans man, because as I watch it more and more, I am finding a personal identity with him as an AMAB non-binary person.
Yeah.
But that is what trans headcanons are supposed to be. It is, if a character brings you comfort, you can claim them, because canonically trans characters don't exist in media.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people who will point out, like, no, that can't be canon to the show, because this happens. And it's like,
that's not what we're trying to say.
You're starting at square zero. We're all at square 10. I
mean, first of all, you're wrong. It is canon because I said so.
Yeah.
Second of all...
Yeah, that's... Mark Hamill says, if it is important to you that Luke Skywalker is gay, then Luke Skywalker is gay. Why would I take that away from you?
Why else does art exist? Like...
That's true. You have to... The people who are like, it can't be canon because this and this, need to learn a little about Death of the Author.
Mm-hmm.
And Death of the Author is the idea in literary analysis that what was intended... doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, what the audience got from it matters, because you are the audience. What the artist intended?
What the author intended does not matter, because the author isn't there in the room with you.
Not important at all. Did you know, very, very minor example, Samuel Beckett wrote a play that he called Waiting for Godot.
Oh, no.
Anyway, that sucks. No one enjoys that.
No one enjoys that pronunciation.
No. It's like, yes, sure, that's the canonical pronunciation. I hate it. Same with Jif.
Yeah, I recognize that the council has made a decision, but given that it's a stupid decision, I have elected to ignore it. So I recognize that the writers have made Dipper cis, but given that he's trans, I have elected to ignore that.
Well, it's also fascinating to me to find out that cis men go through the same experience of, please be manly, I'm sorry, I'm not yet, I'm a child. Well, then something's wrong with you. It's horrifying, actually. It feels like I'm witnessing cult inductees whenever I see someone who's like...
That's what it is. I think that's not too far off.
When I see a bodybuilder, I try to transition the topic of cars or beer into something else that is related, because I love things tangentially related to cars and beer, like boats and rum.
Yes.
And then they're just like lost, like, well, he's not talking about cars or beer.
Yeah, it just doesn't compute.
That got real. That got a little real.
Got a little real. I like it. Blah, blah, blah. Fiddleford H. McGucket.
Yeah, let's talk about some stray character observations, because there's a lot of good character stuff in this episode.
And who is a strayer character than McGucket? I think McGucket he qualifies
literally
as a
is a stray.
cat.
He was supposed to exist in one episode, and he has escaped.
I also think, legally he probably qualifies as a stray cat. But we get a reveal of McGucket's first name when he is the runner-up of a contest.
I guess we'll have to give the prize to our runner-up winner. Fiddleford H. McGucket.
They talk about how there are a lot of story meetings or even first drafts that didn't make it all the way into episode. It's Rob Renzetti who says none of those are a waste of time because they have already written several episodes that deal with McGucket that don't exist in any full form, and several episodes about Seuss that don't exist in any full form. So they know McGucket's name, they know Seuss's aspirations. So the brief little moment where Seuss puts on Stan's fez and says, "Someday," that's a very huge character moment, but it is something the writers already knew because they've worked with Seuss more than we have seen.
Yeah, and it also kind of has a double purpose here because it's also a misdirect for Gideon when he believes that he's using the shrink ray on Stan, which is really weird now that I think about it. He's just wearing the fez, but I guess he just fired at the first person he saw.
Yeah, a plus-size guy in cargo shorts.
Yeah, no, but he doesn't think things through very much.
No, he just jumped in, saw Fez, pressed the button. He had his finger on the trigger and was ready. Mm-hmm. You were loving the DIY nature of how the mystical aspect of this episode works.
Yeah, I remember that in the commentary, Alex talks about how, like, deliberately, it's not like a laser or anything. It's like something you would make on a camping trip. It's just like some of this magical crystal. So
Dipper takes out a Swiss Army knife and uses a flathead screwdriver to break a piece of the crystal off, and then, tapes it to, or ties it so he can flip it to a flashlight.
Yeah.
Alex describes in the commentary that when researching for the show, he looked through him and Ariel's old journals and saw there was a lot of Ariel like, oh, Alex won again. And like, he was insecure during that brief moment that she was taller than him, but she was always insecure.
Right. Because being the quote-unquote smart twin is like, means you win at the games that involve strategy and stuff like that.
I prefer the way Mabel plays chess to the actual way to play it.
I agree. I think she is the better for it.
I think she's fixed chess.
Yes.
It is now about taking care of the knights because they look like horses.
Mm-hmm. They're just little babies. So, I can't help but notice that, like how in Ant-Man they're able to shrink down, like, entire buildings, I think the Hall of Conspiracies got shrunk, too.
Oh, now it's the diorama of conspiracies. Do we need to get Brian to record a new intro?
Maybe we should just pitch it up.
Oh, this is going to sound terrible.
Ladies and gentlemen, right this way to the Hall of Conspiracies.
So, from gravityfallsconspiracies.tumblr.com has reblogged a post from a study in petrichor that has a screenshot of the moment before Seuss puts on Stan's fez and looks at himself in the mirror and notices that Seuss's hair is gray in the mirror. And Gravity Falls Conspiracies adds, is it reflection desaturation, an animation goof, or is Seuss hiding something?
Are they implying that he is Dorian Gray?
Dude, I don't mean to freak anybody out, but I mean, I'm not aging, but like...
The selfie I took is! Whoa!
What's going on here, dude? Seuss, you just put like a face app filter over it. No, dude, I'm serious.
Let's write that episode.
Yeah.
Okay, Anonymous also submitted to Gravity Falls Conspiracies. The Anonymous? Oh my goodness. I didn't know they watched the show.
Oh man, the same Anonymous who wrote all those poems?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah!
Gideon's mother wrote book 2. All right. Before you go on asking why this girl's acting so cray-cray, hear me out. She doesn't have any real role in the story, so that maybe the writer's excluding her out so we won't notice anything. Considering that all she ever says relates to her to continue vacuuming. But that's what caught my attention and got me thinking. Maybe she wrote the book about magic and spells with every magic spell and curse she could find. And maybe she tried to keep it so much of a secret, which is why she married Bud so she could cover it up. Then she had Gideon and made him a child star to keep the book from her husband and her child. And after years of being obsessed with the book, Gideon discovered it and put a curse on his mother with a spell found in there, which evidently put her to slave under his rule and spend the rest of her days doing nothing but working with a vacuum and mumbling about it, when in her mind she's still knows everything and keeps mentally fighting in her mind to be free of the curse and take back what was once her life, instead of being just a mental zombie till she meets her grave. Far-fetched, I know. I don't really have any evidence to back this up yet. I just thought it was a interesting theory and had fun with it, as you could see. XD! I don't know. What do you guys think? Boy, it's things like XD and the A Study in Scarlet reference that remind me, oh, yes, this was 2012. Okay, got it.
Yes, exactly. But, that's an interesting one, too. We've got the TV Tropes Wild Mask Guesses page, which states that, okay, so when Gideon is chasing after Stan with the shrink ray, he's chasing him through a quote-unquote hall of mirrors, and he starts shattering the mirrors so he can find the real Stan. And so there's a guess here that says Gideon is cursed with 7 times however many mirrors he broke, years worth of bad luck, thus dooming himself to failure is the only option, which is postulating that he's going to keep failing to steal the Mystery Shack because of his bad luck. Which is hilarious, because he already has such bad luck in this episode.
Yeah, there's a conversation that certainly happens with villains in cartoons, because for the show to exist, they need to lose.
Mm-hmm. A very curse you Perry the Platypus kind of thing.
There's a thing that happens in the Pokemon anime that Jesse and James and Meowth, Team Rocket, only become comic relief villains after, 6 episodes with them. They're very, very threatening in their first appearance. Well, the first we hear of them is that a police officer stops the crew and says, hey, there are some criminals hanging out in this area. There are people with seedy underworld connections that have been spotted stealing pets from people. And then gradually they just turn into these foppish characters because their personality no longer fit with the amount that they were blasting off again.
And I think that this is the closest in Gravity Falls that we get to that kind of episodic villain vibe, with the exception of the final scene, which...
yes, they're very good in this show at keeping the villains threatening while having them lose to a 12-year-old.
And also keeping the stakes moving along.
Yes. Never have I felt that anyone lost a fight to Dipper and Mabel because they were not strong enough to beat a child. It always feels as though, like, Dipper and Mabel are losing and then pull a trick at the last second that helps them.
Exactly.
Okay, and another one here on Wild Mass Guesses is Gideon knows about Stan's secret room. At the end of Little Dipper, Gideon mentions the Mystery Shack hiding a secret. This likely means the mysterious room that Stan was seen entering in episode 1.
And it's that scene, I think, that keeps the thread of Gideon from staying, like, horizontal. It kind of ups it a little bit more.
Yeah, it does feel that when he is coming back, he's coming back with something. It doesn't feel like, well, I will just try another scheme. It feels like...
Yeah, exactly. It's not Plankton trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula.
It feels like the stakes have been upped already.
Mm-hmm. The cryptogram at the end of this episode reads, "The invisible wizard is watching," when you translate it. If you want to find more episodes of this podcast, go to our host network, pipedreampodcasts.com, where you can find other shows like How Did This Not Get Made, Escape from Walt Disney, and Come On Fahookwa Pods.
While you're there, you can find links to our show's social medias and Discord server. We have a lot of new listeners now, thanks to Time Traveler's Pig and Tony Goldmark retweeting. Please come hang out with us in our Discord. We love to meet you and find out about your experiences with the fandom. Or you can email them to us at mysteryshacklookback@gmail.com. We are at a point where we have few enough listeners that we could get to know all of you. So we would love to do that.
But that probably won't last forever, so get it while you can.
Maybe it will. We don't know. We don't know how big this show is going to be.
Who knows? Thanks to Pry and Brian for making the instrumental for our theme song and for voicing Stan in the Hall of Conspiracies intro. Thanks to Sim and the Dim Bulb V2-0 for making the instrumental of the Hall of Conspiracies intro.
The last 2 episodes, you didn't get to hear the ukulele outro Ella recorded.
That's true, yeah. So now I have kind of fashioned a rubber band onto a toothpick, a few rubber bands. Take me back to the place I know with the Mystery Shack and the forest gnomes. I'm already packed, so come on, let's go. Don't get me started, my heart's in Gravity Falls.
It's happy days again at Family Auto Mart. At Family Auto Mart, we're wheeling. When you want a deal that's great, call 242-0328 Family Auto Mart. I'll see you here.